Alright, everyone. Back to potato mode on everything, basically. I'm using the lowest settings, like the lowest video settings possible, and 30 FPS, because otherwise the video tends to lag, like, a lot. So, hopefully this goes as planned, and if not, then oh well. But I found this video on my YouTube recommended called Using MissingNo and Ditto to Catch a Very Bulky Horsey. I'm like, ooh, a glitch video. Sure, I'll watch it. Also, like every glitch video, I have to comment under it. Nice. The thumbnail is. Oh man, I just got to the comments. Read the thumbnail is 6,932 words.
Surfaces can be a drag and drop
By CK
at
Lab.
H&R Block. Switching to us couldn't be quicker or easier. With
Welcome back to the lab, everyone. I'm sure that most of you are aware by now, but Generation 1 Pokemon is no stranger to glitches. With the amount of coding errors and exploits in the game, it's not difficult to find yourself experiencing oddities that were never intended to be there. Sometimes moves don't work as intended, sometimes you end up battling strange glitch Pokemon, and sometimes, just sometimes, you can break the game simply by switching moves. You're probably aware of bugs like the Generation 1 miss and the fact that focus energy reduces your critical hit ratio, but what about glitch moves that don't normally appear? These can all have a variety of strange effects, but today I want to talk about one glitch move in particular. This move can be acquired by a few non-glitch Pokemon and causes some of the most absurd effects I've ever seen. With its name consisting only of a single hyphen, this move is often referred to as the Cool Trainer move.
I've heard of that.
So, who's going to be the star of today's video? Well, if you saw the title, you won't be surprised to find out we're going to be talking about Ditto. Ditto is a unique gimmick Pokemon that plays on its ability to copy the opponent with Transform. When using Transform, Ditto will copy all of the opponent's moves and stats except for HP. For a casual player, this works exactly as intended. But, since this is Generation 1, we're always one small step away from breaking something. After transforming into an opponent, all you have to do is swap the first move with one of the other attacks in the list, and this will have some unintended effects after the battle ends. If we go check on Ditto, you can see that Transform has disappeared, leaving a blank slot in its place. Looking at the move in battle, it simply says that its type is Cool Trainer, and it has 0 out of 13 power points. This is actually move number 0. Remember that items, Pokemon, moves, maps, etc. all have ID numbers so that the game can differentiate them. For example, a rare candy is item number 28, and an escape rope is item number 1D. Those same values would correlate to a Chansey and Pinsir for Pokemon, and Poison Sting and Headbutt for moves. If you think about Ditto's moves like a numbered list, what number makes the most sense to fill in for a blank space? Right. 0. Normally, you can never select these blank spaces, but forcing the first move to be blank allows the player to see the type and power points of this placeholder attack. Transform is still in the move list, it's just being hidden underneath the 3 Cool Trainer moves, which don't allow you to scroll past them. This trick can also be done with Mew, as long as you have at least one blank move slot. The Transform glitch was patched in Yellow version though, so this method only works in other versions of the Generation 1 games. So what happens if we heal at a Pokemon Center to restore the move's power points? Nothing. It stays at 0. Again, this is because it's a placeholder attack, the game doesn't acknowledge Cool Trainer as a move, and therefore doesn't restore its PP. Using an Aether or a PP up will crash the game in most cases, while Elixirs don't, but they still don't refill the power points. We'll circle back to why the crash happens in a minute, But for now, it's important to note that even just looking at this move can cause the game to crash. This glitch move is doing something that the game really doesn't like, and if we know how to use it, we can break things even further.
This one mistake is stopping you from losing weight.
If you want to drop this,
start eating more of these.
Come on,
You
I
might
hate
think this
these
would
ads. Stupid repetitive ads.
Before we go any further, it's important to understand how text and menus work. First and foremost, the game writes text in the same way that it draws tiles for the overworld and battles. For the purposes of this explanation, you can think of text and graphics as one and the same. That's why you sometimes see pieces of graphics inside the names of glitch items and Pokemon. To elaborate on this more, let's take a look at pausing. When the game is paused, it looks like the start menu appears over top of the current overworld graphics, but that's not what's happening. Due to the Game Boy's hardware limitations, it's easier to remove the obscured graphics and replace them with the menu rather than add it to a different layer. But of
I did
course,
not know
the game
that.
can't just delete these tiles and forget about them, as they're needed for when the menu or text box gets closed. So to keep track of what tiles were showing before the menu appeared, the game stores them in a place called a buffer. The buffer essentially takes a screenshot of the graphics data before the menu is displayed to reference later. This way, the game can restore the graphics once the menu is closed. This also applies to the Pokemon and item menus in battle. They store the current graphics used for the battle while loading the corresponding menus. The second important thing to mention is how the game knows that a piece of text has ended. In coding terms, a piece of text is typically referred to as a string, and every string has what's called a string end character or a text terminator. This is an invisible character that simply acts as a way to tell the game that the text is finished being copied or displayed. It doesn't matter if it's a Pokemon name, an item name, NPC dialogue, etc. All of these strings end with a string end character, which has an ID of 50. So what happens when the
50.
game tries to display the name of a glitch item or Pokemon? Well, since the game is reading garbage data and interpreting it as text, there's no guarantee that a string end character exists. In this case, the game will continue copying data past the intended area until it finds the equivalent of a string end character, aka a value of 50. This is why some glitch names will be larger than what's normally allowed for text, and it's also why the Cool Trainer move is crashing the game. Since this move was never meant to be viewed, it doesn't contain a string end character. Because there's nothing telling the game that the move data has finished being copied, it continues to read memory past the normal size of the move data, corrupting important stuff in the process. And thus, we get a game crash. But not all the time. Let's take a look at the Cool Trainer's corruption in battle. When attempting to view the Cool Trainer move in battle, the corruption doesn't seem to happen every time. Simply put, the game has a strange way of looking through the move table, which is why the corruption is inconsistent. Once the corruption does happen though, we get some really messed up effects. I think I'll just let the game speak for itself here.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was a lot all at once, wasn't it? This series of glitchy events is called the TM Trainer effect. Remember how I said that the glitch name of the Cool Trainer move will continue to corrupt data past the buffer for the move? Well, it just so happens to go far enough that it begins corrupting battle data, the most important being information tied to the opponent Pokemon. Since this garbage data is now overwriting battle data, the music fades out, the enemy gets multiple status effects all at once, gains an incredible amount of HP, and even changes its species. The TM Trainer effects are incredibly consistent and take place every time the Cool Trainer corruption is successful, but the game still crashes at the end of the battle. What if we could prevent the game from crashing, and try to catch one of these Pokemon after the TM Trainer effect begins to corrupt everything? To do that, we need to understand what's going on with just a little more depth.
So 10 years ago, I bet my life savings on oatmeal.
Crap.
I mean, people definitely told me I was crazy.
I just like did not understand.
Let's start with the big issue. Why is the game crashing once the battle ends? Well, this is what's referred to as a CFC4 freeze. CFC4 is the location of said data related to how the game draws graphics and will crash if the address is set to an odd value at the end of a battle. The specifics aren't important, but the game is essentially waiting to draw graphics until it encounters a certain game state, which never arrives, causing a soft lock. This is a piece of memory that is overwritten due to the Cool Trainer corruption. However, there is one area in red and blue that can work around the CFC4 freeze, and that's Diglett Cave. Due to the lack of NPCs, and frankly anything else in the cave, this area doesn't crash the game after a battle ends, but the start menu needs to be open before leaving, or you'll get a different crash. Following these steps, we can experiment a little bit more with the Cool Trainer corruption. As crazy and random as the TM Trainer effect may seem, it's actually predictable in the way it will manipulate game code. The reason why the TM Trainer effect is so consistent is because the data being copied through the glitch is consistent. Allow me a moment to explain this with an oversimplified visual. Imagine that all of these dots are pieces of data for the game. This first group here is a buffer for the move data, which of course is used to temporarily store a move name, type, etc. Let's just call this Move Buffer 1. This second group is another buffer for the move data. Buffer 1 always assumes that there will be a string end character in the move's name data, so it doesn't check for one. Instead, it always copies 20 bytes of data for the move. However, the second buffer does check for a string end character, so instead of copying the 20 bytes from buffer 1, buffer 2 will keep copying data until the next string end character appears. The next piece of data that gets copied is the buffer for screen data. Recall that when a text box or menu is open, the erased graphics are stored in the screen data buffer, so the game always remembers what was underneath. When you open the item or Pokemon menus in battle, the battle screen data gets stored there. This is why the effects of TM Trainer are so consistent, because the battle screens don't change much, even when there's different sprites on the screen. When Move Buffer 2 copies this data, it gets placed in the area of code that's used for battle information. All of this happening causes the multiple status changes of the opposing Pokemon, and also turns them into a Missing No with really wonky stats. How wonky? How about level 127 with over 300 attack and 6,946 HP? Yeah, I'd say that's pretty insane. But is there anything that you can do to manipulate the battle screen before it gets stored, and therefore alter the corruption? Sure. And the easiest way to do that is with our new friend. After catching Missing No and viewing it in the Pokemon menu, this activates a glitch state called Inverted Sprites. As you can probably guess by the name, this glitch state causes sprites in battle to be flipped, and sometimes look pretty glitchy. Since the position of the tiles have changed, different data will be copied when we open a menu and then activate the TM Trainer effects. Now if we catch the opposing Pokemon, it's a level 127 Horsey with 6,932 HP instead. You know what?
Wow.
I want to test just how bulky this is. What happens if we use a full restore on the Horsey or Missing No? Oh. Well then. How about a potion? Alright, same thing. And again, the HP resets if I heal at a Pokemon Center. Makes sense, as the max HP stat isn't altered, it's just the current HP stat. At least I can use a full heal to get rid of the sleep, burn, and freeze. Now, I'm gonna go set up a battle to test Horsey. As much as we've done using glitches so far, I'm gonna use some Game Shark codes to make this interesting. Now, I'm in front of Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave, and Horsey's moveset has been adjusted to only contain Splash, all fully upgraded to max power points. So, how long can a Pokemon with almost 7,000 HP stand up to Mewtwo? Well, over 15 minutes have passed, and Horsey is still standing, but not for much longer. Mewtwo only has a 50% chance of attacking, but with a bunch of special downs, it can hit Horsey for over 300 HP now. After 18 minutes and 14 seconds, and a long 148 turns, Horsey finally runs out of HP and faints. Again, this Horsey and the missing note we caught beforehand don't have their max HP values changed, it's just that their current HP stat is well above the normal cap. If you try to do anything outside of one battle with these Pokemon, they'll go right back down to level 100 and their HP will adjust accordingly. The same thing happens if you try to look at the Pokemon in Stadium or Stadium 2. Not much else can be done to experiment with the high HP, but there are some similar glitches to the TM Trainer effect that can produce some equally crazy results. However, that's going to have to be a future video. If you guys like this explanation, leave a comment.
That was a nice video, you know, I paid attention to it and whatnot, unlike the previous one, and I'm sorry for the graphics of the video, they probably look... Also, I'm probably gonna adjust those or something to try and make it a bit more tolerable, but I'm not too sure what I could even do. So, yeah. I hope you enjoyed, and I guess subscribe? I don't know, I don't like telling people to subscribe, and also, this is just mainly me watching the video, not really reacting to it, because honestly, I love videos about glitches and whatnot, they're interesting.